Hey everyone, this is Colin Greene from Club Yu-Gi-Oh! Ohio, and I'm here to bring you my Epic Gazelle deck profile from the most recent Columbus Regional. Before I get into that though, I'd like to shout out our sponsors, Heroes and Games, No Limit Gaming, and Refined Gaming for their constant support of the club and team. We really do appreciate them for that. But getting right into it, for our normal summons, we played just 2 copies of Salamangreat Gazelle. I would play 3, but unlike my teammate Leon, I don't have a gajillion dollars to spend on Yu-Gi-Oh! So unfortunately, I had to play 1 copy of Gazelle instead of the 3rd copy of Gazelle. Along with that, we also played 2 copies of Gazelle. Well, this Gazelle's normal summon effect is pretty good. I much more prefer it for its pop effect and its ability to remove floodgates. Moving right along, though, we of course played 3 copies of Gazelle. And the other half of this, the best combo in the game, 3 copies of Gazelle. I mean, best card ever printed, you have to play 3 of this. This is not up for debate. Circulant got nothing on this guy. But to back this card up, we also elected to play 1 each of Gazelle, Gazelle, and Gazelle. Well, each of these Gazelle are individually powerful in their own right. None of them, I say, are good enough to play as more than a 1-up, because if you play more than 1, it tends to break up your hands and make it harder to find your Gazelle, which is another travesty in this deck. So 1 each, that's all you need. And then finally, we also like to play 1 copy of Gazelle, Ruler of Infernos. This card is amazing. It pops floodgates, it pops boss monsters, it punches into boss monsters, it extends. I mean, that's just so good. I would never not play this card in a Gazelle deck profile, and I would highly recommend anyone considering this deck to pick up their copies of Gazelle, Ruler of Infernos. Moving right along to the spells and traps, I of course played 3 Gazelle, and 3 Gazelle with the additional effect to discard a Gazelle. Just would never play less than 3. And for our 1-ups, we played 1 each of Gazelle, Sanctuary, Will of Gazelle, Gazelle Roar, and Gazelle Rage. While this card is normally just an extender for my deck specifically, and the OTK combo I chose to play, this is very vital to it, so this is actually a much more important card for this deck profile, for this deck specifically. Moving on to the non-engine, which there was a lot of, I elected to play 3 Gazelle, 3 Gazelle, and then in order to protect our Gazelle from stupid cards like Gazelle Shifter, Gazelle the Primordial Being, and Droll and Gazelle, I chose to play 3 Crossout Gazelle, and for this package, I played 2 copies of Gazelle the Primordial Being, 1 Infinite Gazelle, and 1 Droll and Gazelle. I would highly recommend considering this package for Gazelle decks, especially considering how hard this deck loses to cards like this. You just need ways to stop these cards from resolving, so I'd always recommend playing this package. Droll and Gazelle, is only probably the 3rd most hard-hitting card to the deck, but still can stop you if you only have a searcher for Gazelle. And then Infinite Gazelle is just a really good generic card that doesn't feel that bad to draw. Moving on to the extra deck, though, we played, of course, 3 copies of the Boy Gazelle, 2 copies of Sunlight Gazelle, and 2 copies of Raging Gazelle. While these cards are vital to your combo, either being your end monster or your mid-combo extender, the recyclability of this deck means you really only need to play 2. And by only playing 2, it does free up more space to play other Gazelles. So I would definitely recommend only playing 2 each of these cards. With that in mind, we also only played 1 copy of Mirage Gazelle. While this card is amazing, it extends, it bounces cards going second, the recyclability only means you're ever going to need the 1, so I'd only ever play the 1. That extra space allows us to play a small Gazelle package, including 1 Splash Gazelle, and 1 Heat Soul Gazelle. I mean, this is just for if you get interrupted too much. Draw 2 is a really good effect. Have you ever read Pot of Greed? Insane card. For a little bit more spicy tech in the extra deck, I elected to play 2 copies of, no pun intended, Heat Gazelle. While occasionally you just need a Link 3 that you can go into that you can summon under your Firelocks to fix certain board states, due to the OTK combo I chose to play, the secondary effect can come up, which is why I chose to play 2. Speaking of that OTK combo, I chose not to do any of that dumb stuff like update Jammer into transcode into access code. No, that's stupid. We chose to do what real men do, which is go Pit Knight early, Proxy F Magician into Violet Chimera to OTK. I absolutely just loved this. You can do it under every lock this deck has. And just punch over something really hard. If they don't have anything, use Gazelle to summon Gazelle to their field and punch over that. Just every time I did this, I won the game. So I would heavily recommend this instead of Update Access in your Gazelle lists. Amazing combo. Finally, moving on to the side deck, we played 1 Gazelle Shifter. This is the other card that can just ruin your day. So you need to play as a cross-out target, though I did not think that normal summon Rabino would be as prevalent as it was, so I elected only to play in the side deck. Moving forward, I would definitely recommend it in the main deck with the prevalence of that stupid bird deck. Along with that, though, we played 2 more copies of Droll and Gazelle. This for decks like Pearly. It's an amazing card for stopping those decks. And then for decks like Tyr and Unchained, we played 3 copies of Bestial Gazelle. This is the other advantage of not playing Transcode Talkers. You can play cards like Bestial Gazelle to stop graveyard decks. Amazing card. Loved it every time I could use it. Really good for stopping those graveyard strategies. Then for our last going first card, I chose to play 3 copies of Grave with a Super Ancient Gazelle. This I prefer over a Deep Barrier for 2 reasons. First, it lasts multiple turns while still hitting all the same decks minus Pearly, which for a very grindy deck like Gazelle is really good. And 2, it can stop decks that Deep Barrier can't, such as Rescue Ace, which did come up and felt really good when I did it. With that being said, for going second cards, we played 3 copies of Evenly Gazelle and 1 each of Mind Gazelle, Change of Gazelle, and Harpy's Gazelle Duster. Evenly Gazelle is just really good against the Wombo combo decks going second. It forces a negate or it clears their board. It's just, love this card. This is Change of Gazelle and Mind Gazelle are for removing the High King Caesar, which is the most problematic card in the Unchained matchup, so you just need ways to remove it. And then Harpy's Gazelle Duster is just really good at dealing with back row decks such as Labyrinth or occasionally Trap Tricks. The only 2 cards not shown here were in the main deck was 2 copies of Forbidden Gazelle. I fortunately had to give them back, though. Thank you for letting me use them. Shout out to you, Brendan Outlaw. In terms of final thoughts, I felt really good about this deck. The only things I would change is I would play Gazelle Shifter in the main due to the prevalence of the birds. And then I would probably also play DD Gazelle over Bestial Gazelle because it's more versatile and it's harder to play around. But besides that, I really did enjoy this, and I would highly recommend this deck to anyone who likes a more grindy style gameplay in a mid-range deck or just really wants to relive that 2018, 2019 nostalgia. But that's pretty much it. Thank you guys for listening, and check out our socials below in the description.